Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select two or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the PrizePicks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Mavs Moneyball After Dark. It's about 9:45 on Sunday, November 27th. Dallas Mavericks just fell to the Milwaukee Bucks, 124-115. How are you, Josh?
I'm surviving. Our household is sick. This just in time for the holidays. But we're doing powering through it. And it's been a while. We haven't talked in a while, at least on this podcast.
The injury report catches up with families too.
It does.
Is the thing. Well, it's interesting. This loss, in a nutshell, doesn't really do anything for me. I second night of a back-to-back. Luka Doncic playing 43 minutes the night before, losing by 9. The Bucks are a far superior team in a similar way that the Boston Celtics were. And one of the main points I had in my recap is, like, if you're going to let a team shoot 17 of 37 from 3, which is 46%, you're not winning most of the time. Pair that with the fact that, the Mavericks just don't have enough offensively, despite shooting 51% themselves. This game was kind of a schedule loss to a degree. But what we're seeing amongst the Mavs fans who are exceptionally online is a very frustrated group. And I am very curious to see what the Mavericks do, because this goes back to what we've talked about. They don't have options.
Yeah, I don't know what they do going from here other than they try to look at this game and say, well, if they played offense like they played offense tonight, they would have won that Toronto game by 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably, I don't know, glass half full, glass half empty. I don't know if it's discouraging that you get a game where all your role players basically make all of their shots, except for Tim. But I mean, Dinwiddie had a good night. Kleba had a good night. Wood had a pretty good night. Finney Smith, scored double figures, and they're usually their record when he's in double figures is pretty good. They shot 61.5% on twos and 41.5% on 41 threes. So I don't know if that's encouraging, because we've seen this team kind of look really stuck in the mud lately, or if it's discouraging because it's okay, well, did they just waste one of their good offensive performances, or how much of this can we project going forward? I don't know, but I'm with you. This loss doesn't, I think we said this after the Celtics game. I don't know if we were on the Celtics game, but I'm sure we both said it. The Celtics loss and this loss, don't really do anything. But when you sandwich them around that awful Toronto game, the awful Denver game, and all the other awful games they've played, that's what makes these losses more frustrating, because they realistically should be like a 11 and 17, something like
Let's
that.
see what their point differential is right now, because until
Still pretty good.
it's still pretty good. The last time I looked, they were like third in the West, but that was before they lost these last two. So what are they with the point differential? So they're just they dropped from a 2.7 point differential to 1.8, but that's still good for fourth in the West.
Yeah, they're ninth in the league cleaning the glass and net rating with this game included. So it's just they have to figure. This could be the team that we thought it was. I predicted them to win 49 games, so they're not that far off from what I kind of thought if they just kind of go on a little bit of a run. I mean, if they can just clean up and somehow find a way to win these games that they need to win, that they should win. The games against, your Oklahoma Cities, your Houstons, your Orlando games, Denver missing all their players. And if they can just find a way to stop goofing up those games, they'll be, I don't know if they'll be as good as last season. I don't know if they'll be a 50-win team, but they'll be back to that comfortable, solid 5, 6, 4th seed range team. But we just don't have any evidence right now that they're going to do that, because they haven't really shown us. They keep failing every time they get that test of hey, take care of a team you need to take care of. They don't do it. And then, the problem is you're going to eventually play, the schedule's going to turn. You're going to play teams like the Bucks that are going to beat you, even when you bring, I don't know if the Mavericks brought their A game because their defense was pretty bad tonight. But I mean, offensively they did. I mean, this is probably their best offensive game in weeks, right? And they still lost by 9 points, and they never had the lead in this game. So they got to figure out these other games. They got to figure out these games where they need to take care of business, or this is not going to improve. And the schedule, say goodbye to the fun, cushy schedule they had in October, November. It's about to get real in December. So they I don't know what they got to do to figure it out, but they got to figure it out quick.
I'm just not sure. Right. This it comes back to the same level of team construction where you can't play JaVale McGee. He's an unplayable mess. He is the worst signing of the offseason by any team when you think of role, money, length of contract. There's no question. A lot of people threw DeAndre Jordan at me, but he was a single year minimum. I don't care. Which results in them either having to start Maxi Kleber, which I don't think they want to do given Maxi's fragility and the fact that they would rather close games with him. So that leaves you with Dwight Powell, who has been getting exposed against these good teams, but we knew that. So it's really hard to be mad at Powell. So then tonight they rolled out with Wood to start the second half, which was was so interesting. He finishes a +5 in 32 minutes. Christian Wood finishes with a +5. God, JaVale McGee was a -10 in 4 minutes.
Oh yeah, he was bad. But yeah, I mean, that's, you look at that's probably the thing going forward is eventually they're going to have to get to a point where they start Wood, and then maybe you start. I don't know if you start Josh Green, but you play him, you give him more minutes than Tim Hardaway Jr. because it's just obvious they're going to have to figure out the Tim thing, because that's not going to. He can't keep playing 20+ minutes a game if this is how he's going to play. So that they have some options there in terms of.
Well, Tim Hardaway's toast. Tim Hardaway,
I don't know.
We have 60 games on. I wrote about Tim tonight. We have a 60-game sample size. He is shooting 32% under Jason Kidd in 60 games. That is not a. That I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not good because before he got injured, he was not playing. He did not play well last season, and he got injured. So there's nothing really to bank on. He's played more games as a mediocre to bad player than he's played good. He's had really 2 seasons of good basketball, and those were both under Rick Carlisle. And I don't know what's going on there.
I think what happened with him, and this is just a know-nothing guess, but similar to what Rick did with OJ Mayo, is he tinkered with his shot enough to make it work, because his 2 best shooting seasons were under Rick. And ever since, it's just gone downhill. And he is, I shared this the other night. He is now he's become a contract albatross twice. He's only had 3 contracts. Like he had his rookie contract, his contract he signed with New York, which was then traded to Dallas, and now this second one that he signed with Dallas. And it's just that level of variance is exceptionally difficult. And I'm not mad. I feel bad for Hardaway. The kind of shots he's missing, he's no longer being guarded. That's the real rub. Like he missed 3 wide open looks tonight, badly. That one at the end, which was when they were trying to go on a run. I think they were down 12, and he just misses one from the right wing that hit the front of the rim. I mean, it's awful. I feel.
And he
really
still
bad
made
for
more.
the guy.
And he still made more threes tonight than he had in the last week's worth of games combined. Because he was 0 for since last time he made a 3 before tonight was November 18th. November 18th. So
right, and I chose to sort of focus on him, and it's not his fault. Like this whole thing, it's just sort of where the Mavericks are because they Reggie Bullock was out for the night. They gave him the night off. Josh Green played 20 minutes, had 8 points, 4 rebounds. I'm to the point now where it's just you got to roll with more Josh. They got to try something. Like if Frank's not cutting it, neither's the rest of the end of the bench.
Oh yeah, I mean that's really the only 2 options they have right now is moving Wood into the starting lineup. And I don't know if you move Josh into the starting lineup, but you move him, you start taking away more of Bullock and Hardaway's minutes, and you start giving him to Green, and you see what happens. Because otherwise, like you said, they're not going to make a trade. You probably can't start Maxey because he just can't. He can't be a 30-minute per game player. He just can't. He's never done it in his career, and he hasn't played a full season in what feels like forever. He just constantly gets lower body injuries. When he kind of, he looks on a lot of night, if they play like 3 games in 4 nights, he just kind of looks toast. When he's just he's a bench guy that is really important. So they gotta, they just gotta preserve him. But I don't think you can really change with what they're doing with his minutes too much. So that really just leaves Wood and Josh Green. But I am starting to see, it is kind of funny with Christian Wood. I know he was a +5, but you look at his 2, he's finally broken that 30-minute threshold and did it against Boston, did it against Milwaukee. And I would say those were maybe 2 of the worst defensive performances the Mavericks have had.
For sure.
This
season.
season.
He's really awful at defense. His timing is bad. The rotations are one thing, but his timing is bad. And he's just so light. He gets moved the same way Dwight Powell gets moved.
Yeah, guys are comfortable shooting through him. Like even if he makes it his rotation on time, like guys aren't scared of trying to shoot around him, through him, over him. Like he doesn't offer much resistance at the rim, even when he gets there on time. Seems like he's at his best. A lot of his blocks seem to come like off the weak side. When he's guarding a guy that's coming straight at him at the rim, it doesn't seem to work out too well for him. But again, they kind of have to roll with this and see what happens, because I would have to imagine, Milwaukee and Boston are 2 of the best teams. They are the 2 best teams in the league. So maybe you go, you just try outscoring people a little bit with Wood.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
But yeah, the defense hasn't really. That's another thing that we talk so much about offense, but I don't see the defense from last season. And I think an underreported thing was after they traded Kristaps and they brought in Spencer. I think they finished the year from the trade deadline to the end of the year. I think they were like 15th in defense.
Yeah.
So And they picked it up in the playoffs, obviously, but they still had moments where their defense kind of broke a couple of those games. So yeah, it's just they don't have a fearsome rim protector outside of Maxey, and Maxey's just not a guy that's going to play a ton of minutes every night. And you're also asking Maxey to do a ton of other stuff that sometimes takes him away from the rim because they need help on the perimeter. So he's not like he's not always guarding the rim. And then, McGee's not doing it. Powell's not doing it. So that's another thing. The defense hasn't really looked all that great the last couple games, despite, but again, for the season, they're, what are they in defense this season? Oh, they're finally starting to tumble a little bit. They're now 14th in defense. According to Cleaning the Glass, I think they were like around 9 or 10 before the Boston game. So that's not great. Last 2 weeks, their defense is 20th in the league. So I know we kind of complain about the offense because I feel like that's the easiest thing to look at. But defensively, I'm just not, You've said it multiple times. Bullock doesn't look the same. I don't think Finney-Smith necessarily looks the same defensively. I don't see any great leaps or improvements from Luka other than he creates more turnovers. But in terms of like keeping guys in front of him, I don't really see it. And we know with Wood, really the only guy that's popping on the defensive end to me is Josh Green. But he only plays so much. So I don't know. That's another thing they need to get right. Bullock and Finney-Smith were so terrific in the playoffs on the defensive end. They really need those guys to return at least somewhat to that form, I think, because the offense is going to be weird. Like that's just the roster they have. Like, I don't know what else to say.
Right. And like getting mowed down by the Bucks is not wholly unexpected. Like even if the defense was tight, the Bucks are a really good basketball team.
Right. And this is not good for me to say as we are content creators about the Dallas Mavericks, but I'm running out of things to say about this team. There's not much, and I think that's why fans are probably getting really angsty about it because, you look at Josh and he's really the only guy that has like a development path left. But like Dinwiddie, Powell, Hardaway, Finney-Smith, Maxey, those are their top minutes guys. Bullock, like those guys who they are, right? Like they're going to be the same as they were next season. Like you're not looking at this team and going, well, at least there's like some young talent that we can watch develop around these vets or something like that. There's just like the team is kind of tapped out. They are who they are. And so it makes it tough to talk about because we just kind of have to walk into these games and go like, okay, well, did the role players make their threes? Yeah. Okay. Well, did they play defense? No. Okay. They lost. Or did the role players not make their threes? No. Okay. Well, they lost. Did Luka score 35? Yeah. Okay. They probably won. Did he score 27? Yeah. Oh, well, then they lost. Like it. I mean, every game feels so similar in terms of how they lose them. So that I'm really at a loss for words for what to talk about because the roster's basically been the same for the last 4 years. And while that doesn't, I'm not discounting that they could finish the season between 48 or 50 wins. It's just like, okay, but then where's the next step coming from? And that's when we start talking about the offseason and how kind of screwed they are with their asset management. But I don't know what else to talk about. Like the team is just so unbelievably static. Even when they play well, like we kind of know the blueprint. It's Luka looking dominant or all these role players make their threes. Like there's no, I mean, you can maybe break down some tape sometimes, but the offense they run, the sets they run, that feels like, maybe too micro looking at it when, I don't know, these games still feel the same. I don't know. This is bad. I'm just kind of like, I'm in a
because
funk
it's like
I just don't know where to go.
Like quietly, it's been of note, and we've not really talked about it, but it's like Spencer Dinwiddie not shooting out of his mind is a small part of why the Mavericks haven't won some games. I mean, he's still playing pretty well, and he's actually still shooting pretty well. It's just he was going on games where it's like he was scoring north of 20, and the Mavericks needed that. And in these last 4 games, he's gone over 20 once. And I don't that, and that's not that's not to blame Spencer at all. Like Spencer I've really been pleased with what Spencer has offered this team this year relative to my expectations. I actually thought he would take a step back, and he's played the same level of basketball. They just don't really have much. And that's where it's like talking about them in the big picture gets a little weird, because I go on these live shows and people have the same complaints, and I want to talk about those things and have people get out their frustrations. But the level of toxicity, that's been a fun word on the internet this Sunday, comes from the fact that the Mavericks have made a lot of mistakes, which they then told us weren't mistakes. I don't know what.
No.
And so it's like it's a recipe for frustration. I don't necessarily agree with the toxicity, because, like we said, you just said this. If a couple of guys shoot a little bit better, they're going to win more games than they're going to lose. The way some of the shots aren't falling, I don't know when that happens.
Yeah, I know. It just sucks, because it's like, it's not one of those things where we can. I mean, they could do a little bit more to be more creative off the ball.
They could do anything. See, that's okay.
Yeah.
There's two things that Luka needs to improve on. One is hit his free throws. Like, he's back down to his career average, shooting 75%. 12 free throws a game, and you're shooting 75%. You're leaving 3 points on the board every game. And when they've lost these games, he has to do better. I'm sorry. I'm going to get yelled at for that, but he has to shoot in the low 80s. He just has to, if he's going to shoot this volume of free throws. Otherwise, it's kind of pointless. The second thing that he has to do, and while we're here, and the Mavericks need to enforce this, they have to find a way to enforce this. He has to do something off ball. I am sick and tired of the Luka Doncic criticisms about how he plays and the nonsense from, like, I had to listen to Isaiah Thomas talk about how Luka picks up all these cheap assists. Fuck out of here with that. Luka makes hard passes, drives to the basket, guys hit their shots or they don't. I'm not interested in that. But when Luka doesn't have the ball, more often than not, he's standing north of the 3-point line, almost at half court, or he's standing in the corner with his hands on his knees. I know he has a heavy load, but they have to get him involved, because the rest of the team is not good enough to score consistently. It's only Spencer putting his head down. Am I wrong? I mean, I know you agree with me, but it's like, I feel like that's a thing that, like, it's like a third rail where it's like, oh, he's carrying so much of a load that we can't say he needs to play even better, because he does need to play even better, because the Mavericks are now under 500.
No, it's a catch-22, because you're right. But also, if he's going to be playing 40 minutes a night and having a 36 to 40 usage rate, how can you possibly expect him to want to run hard off the ball when on the, like, 3 possessions a quarter or whatever he gets where he's not running the show? Like, they have to find a way, and that goes back to they have to find a way to ease his burden, and then you can maybe expect more from him off the ball. But I just don't know how is that going to change when he's got the minutes and usage toll. Like, how could you possibly expect him to be like, hey, Luka, I know that you literally do everything, and and we only win games when you score 35 points or 30 or more points, but we're going to need you on the couple of plays where you don't have the ball. We're going to need you to run really hard off some screens, and we're going to need you to set some screens and have some big guys run into your knees and push you down to the floor even more. How do you feel about that? Like, it's
part of it. It's part of it, though, because you watch Giannis tonight. That dude sets screens, he moves around and causes chaos. Luka doing stuff causes chaos. He knows this. He's a smart guy. He's choosing to sort of ration his energy. And I have a hard time arguing with that from a conceptual standpoint. It's just when you watch these possessions, it's either Spencer does something or nothing. That's it. Those are the options. I don't know.
I know what you mean. And I mean, Giannis is a big, basically, so it's tough. Like, he's not their point guard. I mean, I know his usage is high, but he's not bringing the ball up the floor every single time. It's a little different, but I know what you mean. Like, in a perfect world, that's but Giannis.
Sorry.
What's that?
Jason Gallagher, I just saw him. He posted a meme saying people blaming Luka for the Mavs problems, and it's J. Jonah Jameson. Spider-Man is an evil psychopath abusing his powers. Which, like, as I'm like saying, hey, it's just perfect timing. Sorry.
Yeah, I know, and it's just, I mean, Giannis has Drew Holiday and, when he's healthy, Chris Middleton as his teammates, and Mavericks don't have anyone close to that. Like, it's, Dinwiddie is the closest, but he's not going to make an all-star team. Although I guess if he keeps shooting like this from three, I mean, he might get considered. But it's just it's like the chicken or the egg. Like, they could ask Luka to do more off the ball, and I get it, and I get that, like, when he doesn't have the ball, him standing there with his hands on his hips is like really frustrating. But also, I don't know how they can expect to ask him to do more off the ball when they ask him to do more on the ball than maybe any other on-ball player in the NBA.
Yeah.
And again, remember when I talked about, like, when they were winning, when they were winning games early in the season, they were a couple games over 500, and Luka was scoring he scored like 30 in his first 6 games or whatever it was, 8 games. And we're like, man, what is this going to look like when Luka like is still good, but like not like he's superhuman best player of all time good, but just like really Luka good. And he scored 27 points on 20 shots. He made 3 of 7 threes. Like, the free throws sucked. He had 12 assists, and they lost. Like, he played a pretty good game, but he didn't play meteoric greatest player of all time type of game, and they lost. And I'm just like, this trend that they've not won any games this season when Luka scored under 30, like, that's concerning. And then the fact that they've been relatively healthy this season, the schedule's been good to them in terms of like home games. They haven't had to travel a ton. Like, I get that there's the last 2 seasons are going to give a lot of people reasons to be patient. I think people should still be patient, but I don't know. There's a lot of funkiness going on this season that doesn't compare to last season, because last season had injuries and COVID, and this season hasn't so far. So that's the red flag, right? It's just like they've gotten all the breaks they've gotten so far, and they're 9 and 10. And Luka's playing like one of the best players of all time, and they're 9 and 10. So like, that's why we go back to, like, I understand why fans are mad. Like, fans should be mad. Like, what should they just be like docile on this? Like, that's part of being a fan. I understand people. I'm not endorsing people saying nasty things to each other. They shouldn't. Don't be an idiot. But also, like, people are just gonna get mad, and that's kind of how it is. And they're gonna win, I hope, but they're gonna go on another win streak, and those people are gonna be happy. Like, it's kind of how it is. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
Well, we should get out of Dodge then. We'll go figure out what to put up some content about for this here game. I wrote a recap. I'll be going live on the show. Got a few shows this weekend if you feel like reveling in misery. Appreciate those of you who do listen every time. Let's just go. You got anything else?
No, that's it, I think.
All right. Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe, Mavs Moneyball After Dark. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you guys have a better week. We will see you on Tuesday night.